I didn't know they could count backwards in Alabama. It is time to get started. Good to see each one that's here this morning. If you're wondering why it's a little bit chilly in here, Jimmy came down yesterday and set the air conditioner, turned it on, and set it at 73 like he always does. He come in this morning, it was 60. Don't know how that happened. So it was 60 degrees here, so he kind of turned the heater on to kind of knock the chill off. So a little bit chilly in here, but it feels good to me. But that's the reason it's a little bit on the chilly side. Feels good to me too. Yeah. Few announcements. Next Sunday, ladies, you will have your Ladies' Day class. It'll be over in the other room over there. I think that's going to be once a month. And Bridget has some paperwork for you to fill out and bring back to class with you. If you have not received yours, she can get you a copy of the material that she has available. And then in 2 weeks, the fellowship meal after the morning service that day, celebrating the various birthdays. And then over on June the 18th to 21st at Warner Robins, Alan Webster will be there. A short course, 4,000 years in 4 days. That should be a pretty interesting short course, I think. And looking forward to that. Sick list, remember the different ones. Thomas was supposed to have his surgery on Tuesday. And as I understand, they did the incision and never found what they were looking for. So I don't guess they really did anything. We've texted Deborah but have not heard back from her. And so anyway, continue to remember Thomas as he's recovering from whatever they did. Also, Debbie Chapman, still continue to remember her. She's still recovering from her recent surgeries. And hopefully she'll be able to be back with us pretty soon. And Clay Maddox, a friend of Daniel's, who's having some health issues. Any other announcements we need as we get started? If not, K3, would you lead us in opening prayer, please?
Place of worship, and this family that you've given us. We ask you to, with Perry, to present this lesson, to study, ask you to help him to guide us to your word, and to help to focus our minds and our thoughts on you. We thank you again for your son.
Thank you. We mentioned on Wednesday evening that today we were going to start a series on some of the great chapters in the Bible. And of course there's a number of them. Today we're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 1. And certainly this is a chapter that everybody's familiar with. And but I think there are some very interesting points that perhaps we haven't thought about. And next week we're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 6, the flood. But today we'll be in Genesis chapter 1. And I think it'll be an interesting study and maybe bring forth some things that, as we look at some of these different chapters, bring maybe forth some things that maybe we haven't thought about. Genesis chapter 1. What is the book of Genesis often called? Creation, yes. Beginnings. And the beginning, that's right. And but certainly creation is part of that. But, we stop and really think about it. In many respects, Genesis is the foundation upon which the rest of the Bible is built. Right. And there's a lot to that. It's a book of beginnings, and that is emphasized in the very first three words of verse 1. In the beginning. So right off the bat, it emphasizes the beginning. So, in the beginning, it is significant. It deals with the beginning of a lot of things. And we're going to notice some of those things this morning. It emphasizes a number of things. First of all, it doesn't specifically say so, but it assumes the existence of God without trying to give a reason for believing. It also tells how that God brought matter into existence. And it tells us how that God formed this matter into the heavens and the earth, and the beginning of plant life, the beginning of animal life, and then, of course, mankind. So these various things, chapter 1 deals with these things. Yeah.
You know, that very first line includes everything that scientists need to do experiments and everything.
Good point.
In the beginning, there's time. They need that. God, they need action. Well, God, they need power. Created. That's action. The heavens, that's space, and earth, that's matter. And they need all of those things to do scientific experiments.
Excellent point.
One line.
Yeah. That just a few words makes a bold statement. So it's a valid point. In the beginning, other than the events of creation that we're going to be looking at here in the next few moments, in the beginning, what do those three words tell us about the earth?
It didn't exist.
It did not exist. That's exactly right. That being said, it did not exist, but it also, without saying so, implies something else.
Definitely exists.
The earth is not eternal. Yeah. God, in the beginning, God was already there.
That's all there was.
Eternal in nature. The earth had a beginning. So it was not, it is not eternal. So it was created. And of course chapter 1 goes into all of that about the creation.
Time begun too. There's no time.
That's right. That's right.
Time was made for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, whenever we consider the age of the earth, scientists often say it's how many years old?
4,000.
Scientists.
To 6,000. Oh, science, billions. Billions.
Millions, billions, yeah. Now, we just mentioned a few moments ago that the 18th to the 21st, the short class, 4,000 years in 4 days. Alan's going to be teaching at Warner Robins. From what is that 4,000 years?
Well, Bible.
Hmm?
Time of the Bible.
Okay.
Probably from the birth of Christ back to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. In reality,
The Old Testament, basically. All of the Old Testament.
you're right, right. And what Jim said, from the birth of Christ back, not forward, but back. That's basically your 4,000 years. And now it's been a little over 2,000 years since then. So you're probably in reality, we can't say, well, such and such a date. But in reality, the Earth's around 6,000 years old, give or take. And so 6,000 years. but it's not eternal. We know from Scripture that this earth will be dissolved one day. It's going to be burned up and everything therein. So we recognize that. No, but in verses 1 through 5, we're not going to read all these verses necessarily, but in verses 1 through 5, it's talking about part of the creation. It says in verse 2 that it was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and it moves on from there. So let there be light, and there was, and you had the division of the light from day and night. Now, with that being said, you have the idea here of creation, to create. It said in verse 2, and the earth was without form and void. Now, looking at verse 2, did the earth exist at that time?
No. I don't think so. No, it said without.
What, say Anthony?
No, it said without form.
Right.
The elements of the earth were there.
There you go. That's exactly right. The earth did not exist. It was without form, but yes,
Components of it.
the components, the elements were there. Exactly right. So it was without form and void, and it was darkness. And so you got the creation here. This matter, it was without form and void. And so that within itself tells us that there were things that had to be done in order for the earth to be able to support life itself.
Especially in darkness.
Yeah,
That's something.
absolutely.
Have light to, had to have light to make form, you know what I mean? He was doing it step by step.
And that's right. You see, when you read chapter 1, you see, as you said, step by step creation, events that took place. One thing led to the next to make the earth inhabitable for mankind. So God had a plan. And his plan worked to perfection. No mistakes. So certainly God knew what he was doing, with no doubt. It says there was darkness and water everywhere. And Reggie made the comment a while ago, in the beginning of time. Now there has been a huge discussion over the years as to how much time was in a day. Day 1, day 2, whatever. Any idea?
No, it's all relative, because God, in 2 Peter, explains that one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. So, is it 24 hours? We don't know.
How about to say? Can you really say, because you were doing the creation, and all he was doing creating step by step as he think or as he wanted to. So he really can't say how the time was.
And
But he did it in 6 days.
And right now, we gauge a day by the sun, how many times.
Right.
But the sun didn't exist initially, when he was doing that, so it's.
So that's how you kind of get to the point of time.
I think he said 7 days for us, to be honest with you. I think he can do it anytime he wants. He could do it in one instance, in the blink of an eye, if he wanted to.
Yeah, there's been discussion for years and years about this. Some say, well, that there is no time element. Others say it's a little 24-hour day. Scripture doesn't say for sure.
But
However,
look at the fact too, God took his time did what he did. And then went to, even though he made it to 6 days, you know, he made a day for him to rest, but I don't see the time, you know, really until he started making creation after. You know, he started making like he's doing now.
He didn't need rest anyway.
Right.
Right.
Now,
Bring on quick, boy.
we don't, it doesn't tell us specifically.
Right.
And there's debates on how it was. Personally, my personal opinion is it's a day as we see a day. However, God spoke and things happened. You know, he could, like I said, he could have done it instantly.
Right.
But the fact is, regardless, it says day one, day two, however that may have been. But we see the activity of the Godhead in creation. And everything was done step by step in order for the earth to become capable of supporting mankind. Now, that brings up another question.
You know, we still gauge our week because of what's in the Bible. I mean, we could have made a week as long as many days
True.
as we wanted. We could have a 4-day week. Started over again, naming something else, but we did it 7 days because of what's in the Bible.
Good point. Good point. Why did God create the earth?
Mankind.
Hmm?
For mankind.
Yeah. To be inhabited. I forgot that in Isaiah, I forgot what chapter and verse, but in Isaiah, it's to be inhabited. He made it for mankind. So that's part of God's plan, for man to be here. And we know that we read of the creation. Certainly we read about the perfectness of the creation, how everything was made. It was good, and it summed it up by saying it was very good. So God knew what he was doing, no question. And no mistakes. And now, he began to make the earth distinct, if you will, from the rest of the universe. He made it so that, you know, he formed it with various things, the dividing of the waters, the sun, the moon, the stars, vegetation, animal life, all of these different things. God created this earth for man to be here. If God created the earth for mankind, why have plant life? Why have animal life?
Because of the action. Him and Eve action. Right?
Food, shelter. Yeah. You need vegetation. You need the light. You need the sun. You need the various seasons.
We want us to rely on him.
Absolutely.
And that's all that he created there is something we rely on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we rely on that, we rely on God because we know where it comes from.
And that's a good point. It shows God provided for them, but it shows their dependence on God. Absolutely. Now, talks about the, the plant life. How did this various plant life, whatever it may have been, how did it come about? How did the plants just happen to be there? How do you get plants today? You sow the seed. What happened then? Did anybody sow the seed? Man wasn't there. Just God created it. Here it is. Sprouted up, if you will. Began to grow. Began to be productive. And you mentioned a while ago that the need for sun. Now, any of y'all plant flowers and stuff around your house? I know Keith and Bridget's got some flowers around their house. Good point. That boy's smarter than I thought he was. But they didn't plant them. However, Ginger's got some potted plants around the house. And every now and then, you need to go out there and water them plants.
If God doesn't want them for you.
If God don't water them for you, that's right. Now, that's where we're going right there. How did the plant life get the necessary ingredients for them to grow? God supplied it. The nutrients that was in the earth that He created. How did He water them? It hadn't rained yet. How did they get water?
It was a mist.
Bingo. Well, you're on a roll today. A mist. That's right. And it had to rain as we know rain, but there was that mist. So God provided what was needed for all these different parts of creation to be productive. And, He created the sun, and we see in verses 14 through 19, He created the sun to separate the day from night. And, the signs, and it talks about the different seasons. Boy, I tell you what, we sometimes hear people say, well, you can't tell summer from winter anymore. I can. Even down here in the deep south. I can tell when it's July or when it's January. Now, there's a difference. I can tell when it's raining and when it's not raining. So we can see, here October, Jimmy and them might to go up to the mountains. The leaves are turning. Beautiful colors. So yes, we can tell the difference.
I think it's really important to put out there that God has such a complex, intricate system that not only is it dependent upon Him to show that everything works so that they are dependent upon, everything's taken care of. So the plants are taken care of, the insects are taken care of, the birds, the animals, everything works together so that everything is fed and taken care of. And it's all this beautiful system. But on top of that, there is beauty within that. There is music, there is flowers, there is smells, there is so much beauty that He has put into His creation. That, the sunsets, that, everything has beauty in it, that it's not just, for us to take care of. It's Him showing off the complexity and the beauty so that we see that and we can say, wow, we need to worship because of there is no one greater than you. Because we can't even comprehend what this little tiny thing, even scientists, we can't even comprehend half of what God has done to put together this system.
Absolutely. You bring up an extra point I hadn't thought about. I'm glad you did. No. We often talk about the beauty. Now, you see the leaves change color. You see the ocean, whatever. You see the mountains. And that's great, the beauty. But you just brought something up that I hadn't even thought about. The smell, the fragrance. I know Ginger likes this time of the year, these different flowers that's in bloom, she likes to smell them. And we have these pear trees over here that come out in March. Them things stink. But they bloom and they stink. Thank goodness they don't last long. But, but nonetheless, you bring up an extra point. You have your fragrances, and you just mentioned music. I hadn't thought about that. Do you like it sometimes in the morning, early in the morning maybe, when it's still a little crisp, before it gets real hot or whatever. Maybe sit on your porch, your patio, whatever, and listen to the birds.
Oh, man, I know what I.
Boy, and I tell you what, isn't that a beautiful sound? I hadn't thought about that, but you're exactly right. And that's part of God's creation.
And sometimes that dust dog, you hear the whippoorwill, that bird, they call.
Yeah, if you ever have them talk back to you?
You know, just sitting out there enjoying God's blessed fresh air.
Yeah.
And then the beauty, like she said, of the sounds of the birds. You know, it's a nice, peaceful sound.
Have you ever had birds talk back to you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure is.
The bird, you hear a bird out there making the sound, you make that same sound, and they'll do it again.
Sure is.
But yeah, absolutely. And that was an excellent point.
But look at us as those birds God created. He's doing all this for us
Mm-hmm.
to be at peace and knowing that we can't do nothing without him. And he always said he's going to show us that we lean on him, things beyond our comprehension. So all we got to do is just trust and lean on him. He'll do our guiding.
There is a phrase that is used in Genesis chapter 1 that shows that God has placed boundaries upon the animals. You know what that phrase is? Chapter 1, verses 24 and 25. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle, creeping things, the beasts of the earth, after his kind, and it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and God saw that it was good. That phrase is, after his kind. You know, the boundaries were placed upon the various animals on their reproduction aspect after its kind. You know, a dog can't bring forth a bird. A dog brings forth dogs. Cow brings forth cows. So God placed limitations as to what they can and cannot do. And that's significant. Now, God also placed limitations upon mankind. You know, men cannot give birth to children. That's part of God's design. At the same time, God made male and female. Now, you can call it all these different genders you want to, but that ain't true. God only made two, male and female. And I don't understand why, I won't never understand it, why men want to be women and women want to be men. I don't understand that. Yeah. Yeah. I, for one, I am thankful that he did not make me a woman.
Me too. Not to laugh, but that's serious business there. That's serious business, man.
Yeah, you wouldn't be
Woman
married.
she got one.
Wouldn't be married if you made you a woman.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because I tell you what, I could not do what you women do. I mean, Jimmy's made a comment since Debbie's been sick.
So that one is limited
He's learned how to do a lot of things he didn't know how to do. And absolutely. Yeah, exactly right. And, seriously, I could not do what Ginger does. And I'm sure K3 couldn't do what Bridget does. He ain't got that much talent. No. And then you got this one over here to the left over here. I don't know about her. But, you know, we have our limitations. But God knew what he was doing. And we don't have the right to try and alter or change God's plans. And yet some are trying to do that. So, now,
You know, you always, you think about all the beauties you were talking about earlier. If it wasn't for man to be able to see these things through the five senses, they wouldn't be beautiful. I mean, if you can tell that he made these things for us to see through our perception, the beauty, sunsets and things like that. You go to these other planets, and you see there's nothing there that really appeals to a man. You know, it's all the same color, it's all just dust, and that sort of thing. And the beauty only exists on this earth. And it was put there for man to observe and to realize and perceive through his perception that it is beautiful. You know, we are the only, I doubt if a deer look out in the sunset and say, man, that's a beautiful sunset, you know? I doubt if a dog, a lot of them can't even see in color. All they got is rods, they don't have any cones in their eyes, you know? So, I mean, he made us to be able to perceive these things that he made that are beautiful. Only human beings can see that beauty.
yeah, Trish.
I know we talked in the past about, how is it fair for these people who live in parts of the world where they've never been taught the Bible, don't have the Bible to study from or anything like that, and how are they held at the same standard as people who had that privilege? But it's like God placed man here to worship him, so that's the whole duty of man is to worship him. So he has made creation in such a way that people in Africa who can't read, they can see that the beauties that he has given us, the birds, the beautiful plants, and create a language that they can hear and understand and communicate with other people. But he created them in such a way that they could understand that there was a creator, and they can believe in that. And so, you know, that used to concern me, that I thought, well, that was just unfair advantage. And I thought, you know, if we're all to be held accountable, then how's that? But there's so much, and I think about creation, just all the things that occurred, and people who say, well, how can that be? Where did God come from? You know, all that. There's so much about all that we will never understand because our minds and understanding is limited. God has limited us, which is fine with me. I know God understands it all, and he's got it in control. And I don't have to understand all the intricacies and exact ways, hows and ways he did things. I just accept it by faith, and I'm just grateful that he's blessed us in so many ways.
Absolutely. What is in chapter 1 is dealing with the creation, of course. And we talked and looked at briefly the different parts of the creation. What is the ultimate part of the creation?
Worship God.
All of mankind.
The ultimate part of mankind. And that's what the latter part of the chapter talks about. You know, in verse 26 and 27, God said, this is God talking, God said, let us, the Godhead, let us make man in our image. You know, all these other animals and whatever, they were not created in the image of God. You and I are. We're created in God's image. The ability to reason, the ability to make decisions, emotions, things you just talked about. Yeah, absolutely. That's God's creation. And all these other things were created for mankind.
Also, it was created for man to be reminded of him each and every day. Because see, God created for us men to always seek him
there's two things that we see in chapter 1 that we need to understand. I think we probably do. What is the difference in forming something and creating something? You know, we read in the first part of chapter 1, talks about the earth was void and so forth. And, you know, and God said, let there be light. So, you know, it was, you had the matter. It was there. The ingredients were there. And, you know, to form something, well, let's look at creation first. To create something is to bring something into existence from nothing.
Right.
You had the matter, you had the elements, but it was just there. So you had the elements, the formation was there, the stuff to form it with, to create it with, but then God created or brought into existence these various things that we've looked at here in chapter 1. And the ultimate creation, of course, is mankind. And made in the image of God. And certainly, each of us should understand the significance of that and the importance of that. You know, have you ever heard the expression, and you probably have, regarding an animal? Well, your dog or your cat or your bird, whatever. My dog died today. My dog has gone to heaven. How many of us have a dog in heaven? That dog was not created in the image of God. We are. And we're going to be held accountable for how we use that creation. So, you know, chapter 1 of Genesis is a chapter that we're all familiar with. But so many little details that perhaps we overlook as we read it is brought forth in chapter 1. We see the mighty power of God. We see God's care for mankind. And I really like what Bridget said. He provided us with the ability to understand the beauty and to appreciate the beauty, the sounds, the aroma. And God allowed us to do that. And that's important.
You know, one thing God put on this earth that I guess we don't think about is bees. Ask a farmer how to work bees on it.
Yeah,
If they're growing a crop, if they don't have bees, they don't have a crop.
good point. And that's little things we don't think about.
Actually, the sunflower patch.
And think of the pollen. We complain about pollen if we didn't have it.
Yeah,
Everything has a purpose.
true.
Carpenter bees like to eat your wood too.
They sure will.
Lord.
They get in there and drill a little hole right in it.
Eat down the house.
Well, tell if they're there or not, I'll watch the sawdust on the ground.
But that's chapter 1. Next week we'll look at chapter 6, the flood. I hope we find this beneficial. We'll pick up in a few minutes.
Very good.
Yep.
You know, I think, isn't it true that there's more years